Let me tell you something most people don't realize until it's too late. Unfair relationships don't just start unfair, they become unfair in layers. And that is what makes them dangerous. Because if someone showed you the full version of how they were going to treat you one day, you would walk away immediately. No confusion, no attachment, no second guessing. So it doesn't come like that. It comes slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. The first layer is usually harmless. A small inconsistency, a delayed response, a broken promise that sounds reasonable, a tone that feels slightly off but not enough to confront. And because it's small, you adjust. You explain it away. You say, oh, it's not that deep. And that's how the door opens. Because once you adjust to the first layer, the next one becomes easier to introduce. Now, it's not just inconsistency. Now, it's unpredictability. Now, it's emotional distance. Now, it's subtle dismissiveness. Now, it's you trying a little harder to keep things stable, still not enough to leave, but enough to shift something inside you. And here is what happens that most people don't see. Your baseline is being recalibrated. What once felt unacceptable starts to feel normal. What once felt uncomfortable starts feeling familiar. What once made you pause now becomes something you tolerate. That's the slow trap. It doesn't force you to accept dysfunction. It trains you to, layer by layer. And with every layer, something else is happening. The cost is rising. You are investing more time, more energy, more emotion, more understanding, more patience, more explanations, more of yourself. And the more of you invest, the harder it becomes to step back and say, this isn't right, because now it feels like you've already come too far. Now it feels like leaving would mean losing everything you've already put in. So instead of reassessing, you adapt. You start negotiating with things you would have once rejected. You start softening your standards to preserve the connection. You start telling yourself, maybe this is just how relationships are. And that's where the trap deepens. Because now the relationship is no longer being measured against your truth. It is being measured against what you've gradually learned to endure. And let me say this clearly. You did not become weak. You became conditioned. Conditioned to tolerate more than you should. Conditioned to stay longer than is healthy. Conditioned to prioritize maintaining the connection over protecting your clarity. And this is why some people look at unfair relationships from the outside and say, why didn't you just leave? Because they are looking at the final version. They are not seeing the layers that built it. They are not seeing how slowly it was introduced. They are not seeing how your reality was adjusted over time. They are not seeing how your nervous system adapted to inconsistency. They are not seeing how your standards were worn down, not erased. There is a difference. They weren't taken from you all at once. They were negotiated away, piece by piece. And this is where awareness matters. Because once you understand the pattern, you stop judging yourself. And you start seeing clearly. And you start recognizing that the issue is not just what is happening right now. The issue is how long it took you to get there. The issue is the accumulation, the gradual shift, the slow normalization of things that were never meant to feel normal. So now the question becomes different. Not, is this bad enough to leave? But how did this become acceptable to me? That question will tell you everything. Because clarity is not about the present moment. It is about tracing the path that led you here. Where did I first override myself? Where did I first minimize something that mattered? Where did I first choose comfort over truth? Where did I first feel something and ignored it? Because the first layer is where the pattern begins. And most people don't live at the first layer because it doesn't look serious yet. And that's exactly why it matters. Because what you allow early sets the direction of everything that follows. And some of you don't need to wait until things become unbearable to recognize what's happening. You don't need to wait until you are exhausted. You don't need to wait until you've lost yourself. You don't need to wait until living feels impossible. You can interrupt the pattern earlier, but only if you trust what you feel when it's still small, before it becomes normal, before it becomes layered, before it becomes your new baseline. Because the truth is, unfair relationships are not built overnight. They are constructed slowly, and they rely on one thing to survive: your gradual adjustment. And maybe that's the shift. Maybe the shift is no longer asking, is this okay? Maybe the shift is asking, would I have accepted this at the beginning? Because your original clarity is often your most honest clarity before adaptation, before attachment, before investment, before conditioning. This is redefine your narrative. And maybe the narrative you need to redefine is this: you are not confused. You were trained slowly to accept what should never have been normalized. God bless you.